Brumbies, way too good for the Tars. Second half especially, the Brumbies just kind of ran riot. Yeah, it ends up being a pretty comfortable win, 38 points to 11. Some good tries, a couple of tries for Samu, a couple of tries for Tom Wright. And yeah, they are certainly in the driver's seat going forward in Super Rugby AU. At this point, despite the fact that they've dropped that one game, it does look like it'll just be between the Reds, the Rebels, and potentially the Tars for who finishes second, who finishes third, and who finishes just outside the chance to knock out. That police helicopter's back. Wants me to go to bed. Yeah, started off a bit messy. A few knock-ons. Line-out's not going straight. It was wet prior to the game. Like they showed, like Greg Clark and Rod Kafer and whatnot before the game with their umbrellas, and it was absolutely hosing down. So I can't help but imagine that affected some of the play early. But it did seem, for the most part, to be relatively dry during the game. You can't quite get a fair indication from the cameras. It never shows all the full rain. But it didn't seem to be too bad anyway. Dempsey went close early. He knocked the ball on over the line. And it was probably a chance blown for the Tars. Now, he would get the only try of the game for the Tars. But in hindsight, it would have been nice if they'd taken that opportunity. 13 minutes, TMO call. The Brumbies not in touch. So... what was the play? I forget. Was it Muirhead? He looked like he was in touch. The TMO said not in touch. They called a 5-meter scrum for the Brumbies, and the Tars scrum actually managed to do a pretty good job on the Brumbies and won a penalty. The Waratahs scrum was doing pretty good early on, I thought. And I thought the TMO maybe needed a new pair of glasses, because I thought that surely there was a foot in touch in the lead up to that call. But anyway, it wasn't the only call that I thought was a bit funny. But I was doing a live stream of the game, and most of the people on the stream seem to agree with the TMO. So there you go. Maybe it's just me. The first try of the game, though, does come through Lonergan. It's a kick through. Again, it's a funny TMO one, because I thought for sure Lonergan was offside by a mile. And actually the chat, I think, mostly agreed with me for that one. But they didn't call it, so that was a early lead for the Brumbies, 7-0, and then the Tars kicked the penalty to make it 7-3. 23 minutes. Muirhead gets a try, and for mine, this was like the most brutal try of the game for the Tars to concede, because it's like a 5-meter line out. It's the bread and butter territory for that Brumbies pack to go over and get a try. And the Waratahs pack absolutely fronts up and prevents them from even going forward. They start to go backwards to the Brumbies. So what do the Brumbies do? They give it to the backs. Kunzel with the cross kick. And Muirhead snaps it up and goes over for a try. So even when you stop them at point 1, they get you at point 2. So it was pretty brutal. They missed the conversion. Lonergan was taking the kicks early. So it's 12 points to 3. The Waratahs kicked another penalty. It was another scrum penalty, so their scrum was doing all right. 12-6. It's still game on at that point. 36 minutes. The Tars go about 8 phases. And eventually Dempsey goes down the left wing. I think it's Horton's pass. Half line break and offload. So, yeah, they get the try, and it's 12 points to 11 at half time. 1 point in it. Absolutely game on. But that's the final scoring play for the Tars. There's a whole half of rugby to play, and they wouldn't score any points. Halftime was looking pretty even. Run meters 154 to 130. That's in the Brumbies' favour. Brumbies had slightly more position and territory. The Waratahs lineout was shocking. It was 50%, and the Brumbies scrum was shocking. It was a 50%, 2 from 4. The Brumbies tackling was only at 79% also, which is really bad. The Brumbies were at like a decent 87%, more than decent. Second half gets underway. Samu gets the first of his 2 tries down the left wing, and boy did the Brumbies get a lot of joy down that left wing. After about 5 phases, so it's 19-11. Wright gets a try. Guess where? Down the left wing. It's a Nick White pass, because he came on and had a pretty solid game. And it's 26-11. He gets told off, though, Tom Wright, for he gets told off for like patting one of the Tars players on the head. I should say, by the way, he scored down the left wing as well, so a lot of tries down the left wing in this one. Yeah, the ref tells him, don't do that because you're going to instigate something. So that's not something you see very often from the refs. But 26-11, and then only a few minutes later, it's only 5 minutes between his tries, Wright gets another one. It's down the left wing, and it's just numbers. After a line out, some pretty poor Tars defense. They just can't match up, and yeah, the kick bounces off the crossbar, so it is a miss. It's 31 points to 11. There's still more points in the Brumbies before full time. The Tars, though, did have a chance. They went through a bunch of phases, but eventually they lost the ball. It was a weird one as well because they were looking, again, relatively comfortable at the scrum, even though the Brumbies scrum had gotten a bit better. And they won a scrum penalty pretty much right in front of the sticks. They decided to tap it and go because I guess the clock is against them, so they decided to get on with it. They go through a bunch of phases, and eventually the Brumbies get the ball back. I figured, because they went through all those phases anyway, didn't get anywhere, why not just take the scrum? If your scrum's for the most part in the ascendancy, just take the scrum. You might even get a penalty try out of it, you never know, but I guess hindsight's a wonderful thing. So, yeah, Samu gets one before full time. I thought his foot was in touch, but the chat in my live stream thought it was all good. The TMO did look at it and said no conclusive evidence. So down the right wing that time, poor defense from the Tars again. It's about 4 guys on Samu, but they couldn't stop him. And it's 38 points to 11. Kunzel with his, goal kicks from the sideline was absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, it's full time. So pretty disappointing for the Tars, a team who were having a couple of wins prior to this one. The Brumbies absolutely bounced back. All those changes they made. Some of these guys hadn't had much rugby. Nick White came on. Played pretty well. So, yeah, final stats. Run meters 362 to 260. It's in favour of the Brumbies. Position territory was pretty even. Clean breaks, though. Clean breaks 7 to 1 in favour of the Brumbies. Lineouts, they actually kind of did all right. The Brumbies 11 from 12. They had one early one that was a bit poor, but the Tars 7 from 12 doesn't look good. Whereas the scrums, the Brumbies scrum did improve in the second half. The Tars scrum was pretty solid throughout. Tackling percentages, the Brumbies one came right up, 89% it finished. Remember, first half it was like 70-something, 79. Goes up a whole 10%. So they really upped their defensive game in that second half. The Tars couldn't break through. Hooper made 10 from 10 tackles. Muirhead and Tom Wright, both the wingers for the Brumbies, had more than 50 run meters. So pretty good efforts from them. But yeah, Brumbies still a team to beat. Tars, 2 wins, and then a bit of a big loss. So back to the drawing board for them. We'll see how they go. You guys let me know your thoughts on the game. I'm off to bed now. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.